Cool. Did you find where it says template? Awesome. That's great.
Yeah, we're good now.
And so have you adjusted it?
From here on out, you mean? What I need to do?
Yeah. Why don't you adjust it right now just to make sure that we know how?
Yes, I'm on bulk 1 now.
Fantastic. Grant, you're ready to rock.
All right.
Cool. It has adjusted your food for you. Your caloric intake is now higher. This is good stuff. Now, if you're bulking, enjoy this. There's a lot of food. They don't get to eat this food. You have to enjoy it. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I'm switching. So a couple things about how to choose this stuff. For right now, you guys are pretty well committed to it, but typically we like to get people relatively lean before they start bulking again, because bulking is much more efficient when you're already lean to start with. Grant, you're below 8%. Or below 10% on body fat, so this is going to work really well for you. Anton, I don't remember what your numbers were off the top of my head, but
11 when I first measured it, 10 second time, it was like 10 points.
yeah, and so that's a good place to start.
Under 10 now.
The reason that works well is because your body responds different to carbohydrates based on how sensitive you are to insulin. And so when we eat carbohydrates, unless we're exercising right now, they dump into our bloodstream. Insulin comes out and grabs those carbohydrates and stores them. It can store them into your muscles as glycogen, as fuel, or it can store it as adipose tissue. One or the other has typically got to happen. And so your body gets much better at storing carbohydrates and uses it much more efficiently to refuel muscle the leaner you are. And it takes much less insulin to do so. Now, we call that being more insulin sensitive. It requires less insulin to store carbs. And now if we're overweight, especially like obese people that are really, really big, they are very insulin insensitive, meaning they require a huge dose of insulin to get the same amount of carbohydrates to go where it needs to go. And so the more insulin sensitive we are, the better we are going to react to carbohydrates. The more that we're going to build muscle here, the less that we're going to add fat. So getting lean first is always a great way to go, and then we can go back and bulk. And you can do these things back and forth to get pretty good results. You can bulk, then you can cut the fat off, then you can bulk, and then cut the fat off, and this tends to work well over the long term. It takes a little bit of discipline. Now, questions on this stuff?
On the levels of bulk or cutting, do we have freedom to choose which one we want to do, or do you recommend just starting at one and then we can go from there?
Yeah, that's the cool thing about being an adult, is you can do anything you want. However, understand that the bracketed range here is optimal. And so if you step outside this bracketed range, things that you might not like may happen. And if you're above that kind of 0.7%, chances are you're going to be adding an unnecessary amount of fat mass with your muscle. As we bulk, there's unfortunately very little way around adding fat with your muscle. You're going to get both at the same time. Typically, once you're already lean, you're very lean to start with, Grant. If we're in this range, you're going to be adding significant muscle mass per each unit of fat that you're adding. How much? I don't know. It varies person to person, situation to situation, but it tends to work well in this range, that 0.3 to 0.7%. If you go much above that, some people can go faster and add muscle mass. Usually it requires a little bit more fat mass. By the way, these numbers are not valid for people that are on anabolic steroids. I'm sorry, it's just the way it is. Because I've had people come to me and be like, what are you talking about? My buddy's adding like a pound of muscle a week. And I'm like, well, is he a bodybuilder? And it's, yeah, okay. Well, there may be some pharmaceutical intervention there that I'm assuming you guys are not taking part in. I don't have any expertise there. So unfortunately, I can't advise you if that's you that I just described. But this bracketed range is typically ideal. Obviously, there's some individual variability there. So if you want to bulk faster, okay, yeah, try it out. Just know that there is a risk of adding additional fat tissue once you go above 0.7%, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Now, just to further answer your question, Grant, is if you do this next week on bulk 1 and your body weight doesn't change, what do you think you would do?
Bulk 2.
Exactly. You would go to bulk 2. Exactly. Yeah, you're tracking. Cool. Good stuff.
If you do have a week, let's say I'm on cut 1, all of a sudden it's maintaining, go to cut 2, and then like, for that week, go on that for 2 weeks, and all of a sudden you start losing more than that. would you drop back down to cut one, I assume? Is it weird to go back and forth between the two templates?
No, it's not weird to go back and forth between templates, but I urge you to not do so more than once per week.
Okay.
Because there can be variability in there that we need to take into account. First of all, for ladies, while we only have one in the audience, there are many more listening at home. The week of your period, you are going to gain 5 pounds, give or take. This is very normal. Just jettison that week as far as changing your templates go. Stay to the plan and then adjust when the weight comes back off. It's very normal, happens to all ladies, but just throw that week out. You can measure your weight if you want, you don't have to, but it's gonna be just a throwaway week as far as your body is concerned because there's gonna be a lot of fluid retention, et cetera. But I would say if you're going to change the templates, do it only once per week. And so if you guys just change on Wednesday, your next opportunity to change is next Wednesday, and then you don't have another opportunity to change until the Wednesday after that. And this helps get rid of some of the kind of frantic, like, oh, what, I'm not losing it. And you're all over the place with your templates because a little bit of kind of sticking to the plan is very helpful. So that answer your question? Good stuff. Fellas, anything else? What's that?
If you're trying to cut, like, at what point do you know you should stop? Is there like I've lost too much weight, I should stop, or something like that?
Yes, and you're diving into what we're going to talk about in a later week, which is how long can we run this? How much weight can we lose? Which is a great question. The short answer is we can typically run a diet for between 8 and 10 weeks. Again, some individual variability there, but your body has some pretty good ways of fighting you on this thing. Your body wants to stay, like you've got a certain amount of Chris right now, and it wants that amount of Chris. And it doesn't want to be more or less Chris. And so it's pretty set in that, and your body has ways of fighting you. We're being very specific about pushing it outside its comfort zone. So we're pushing you out of homeostasis to get you to lose weight because you're cutting. And so eventually your body's ability to fight you is going to get pretty good. And then we have to stop, and we do what we call a maintenance phase. And then after that, you can do anything you want. You can cut again, you can bulk again, but we'll give you the keys to the castle next week. But typically between 8 to 10 weeks. So once you get inside these ranges, typically 8 to 10 weeks is typically what we've got. And then you need to take a break and chill out. We call it maintenance phase. And then you can do whatever you want after that. And so there are these either stair steps up and plateau, or you can cut, bulk, cut, and do that. So there are these maintenance phases we need to do. That's a good question. What else? Cool. Who's using the sleep cycle alarm clock? Fantastic. Pull it up. Who happens to know off the top of their head in the app that they're getting more than 8 hours of sleep a night?
I am not.
What you getting, Anton?
Where's it say it?
It's the average.
Hold on, it's trying to get me to do this game right here.
It's trying to get you to do this game right here.
To buy the game. I don't have the full version. There we go.
I don't know what that is. Average sleep, 6 hours and 38 minutes.
641.
6:41.
7:48.
7:48. We got a winner so far.
It's usually between 6 and 7. I did it today because I was working on something. So I do what I always think all of it. But I will get back to you.
Okay. What's yours?
Much lower, but I know why. I fallen asleep on the couch so many nights, so it doesn't get started till very late. So right now it says 5 hours. I know it's a little more than that, but
So guys, the cool thing is all of you suck at sleeping. Do you guys know LeBron James sleeps reportedly 12 hours a night? Yeah. And so sleep is one of those things that the more you get, the better. And we used to think like, oh, getting 8 hours is like the maximum, that anything beyond that's just gluttonous. And we're really finding out that's not true, that humans really require much more sleep, especially if you're training hard, especially if you're working hard professionally. And so the more sleep, the better. If you haven't read it, there's a book called The Sleep Revolution, written by Arianna Huffington. It's fantastic. It's very well written. Lots of data behind it, and it really looks into sleep, the culture, the history, as well as the science behind it. And so what we'd like to do is take where you're at, and we'd like to push it to an hour more. I'm not going to mandate that everybody get 12 hours of sleep a night. That's not reasonable. But I do want you guys to try and get an hour more. And getting into bed earlier is awesome. Most people wake up because they have to wake up. And so if you've got an alarm clock that goes off at 6 a.m. because you got to get to work, pushing that an hour later typically has professional consequences, but going to bed an hour earlier is really where it's at. Now, talking about that sleep just a little bit, we like sleep to be in a dark room, meaning that you could not read a newspaper in front of your face right here. Dark room, we'd like it to be cool. I think there was some study that was like 64 degrees is the optimal sleeping temperature. I don't know how true that is, but I do know that if you're sleeping in a room that's above 75 degrees, you're going to have trouble getting into deep sleep. And so sleeping in a dark, cool room, interestingly enough, noise is the one that the human body can accommodate best. And so quiet is nice, but it's not an absolute must-have because your body can accommodate getting used to noise. It does take some time. So if you're in a hotel room that's near the highway and you're not used to that, yeah, it's going to keep you up. But if where you live, if you're like, well, I live by an intersection, like I can't change that. It's okay because the noise you can accommodate. But light, even if you wear like an eye mask, your red blood cells react to light, and so your body will know that there is light in the room, and that will affect you. So dark, cool room is nice. Anybody sleep with pets in their bed? That's detrimental, unfortunately. I love pets. Get them out of the bed. Yeah, you can love them in the morning and at night, just not at night because they'll wake you up. Even if you don't realize you wake up, I'm willing to bet your sleep cycle alarm clock shows them waking you up. Yeah, because pets get up throughout the night. Boot them out of bed. Or at least, shall I say, it's optimal to boot the pets out of bed. You'll sleep much better. We're going to try and push it an hour longer. Cool, dark room for our sleep. Any other questions about sleep? No? Does that sound doable?
What's the optimal deep sleep range? Because I know it shows you into when you get into a deep sleep. What are you striving? Like how long would be ideal or optimal for a deep sleep?
That's not something I remember off the top of my head. Yeah, it does. It has it in the Sleep Revolution, but I forget what it is. There's your sleep obviously moves in different rhythms, and you come in and out of deep sleep throughout the night. And so if you don't sleep long enough to get to the really deep sleep, you're actually missing a lot of recovery.
I have to get up and pee all the time at night, so that interrupts my sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Like twice sometimes.
Okay.
Just drink less water, or?
I would drink less water before you go to bed,
Yeah.
but I'm willing to bet that's not what's waking you up. I'm willing to bet there's something else that's waking you up.
It's gotta be the pets.
Yeah, it might be. Yeah, has to be. I'm not sure. That might be. But if you're having to get up to go to the restroom several times a night, there's typically something else going on that's waking you up, and you just are awake, and you're like, oh, I kind of got to go to the restroom, because your body will shut that process down and allow you to sleep longer. So there can be some other stuff going on as well, but we'll take a look at it in your blood work when we get that back. I'm willing to bet there's something else. Pets in the bed could be it. Try it without them. See if you still wake up. People have they've acted like that I've literally killed their dog when I told them to get the dog out of the bed. And then a week later, they're like, oh my God, I've never woken up this rested my entire life. Yeah, because it's cool stuff. You will like sleeping more, trust me. It's cool stuff. It sounds arduous now, but it's better.
Same kind of apply for a significant other, like we're sleeping better.
Yeah, they snore?
Yeah, they do.
They do? Yeah.
If you don't hear it, it's the same concept.
Same concept. Yeah. And so, if you have a snoring partner, I recommend go through your PCP, get a sleep study done. You know, both of you guys, obviously, it can be some interesting stuff. Just to check for things like sleep apnea. Snoring is different than sleep apnea, but these things can affect you. And if they're a really nasty snorer, you might just look into stuff like simple things like breathe right strips on your nose or some allergy treatment, stuff like that. But your primary care physician can guide you through all that stuff. But yeah, allergies, you know, breathing issues, deviated septum, a lot of that stuff can interrupt sleep quality. I personally had some really wacky blood results. Mine looked like I was pre-diabetic. I had cortisol levels that were through the roof, and I had all sorts of problems. And it all came down to the fact that I had big breathing problems while I slept, and I was waking up many times throughout the night just because I was a boy and I ran into things with my face a lot when I was a kid, and I have a deviated septum and I have issues sleeping. And so talking to your primary care physician about sleeping issues and snoring, et cetera, can be a great way to address that stuff. It is very real, and it can affect your quality of life considerably. But yeah, there's couples that opt to sleep in different rooms because of that. I realize it's kind of a taboo to talk about. Obviously a decision for you guys, but yeah, be aware of it.